Salt by Mahasweta Devi. About the author. Mahasweta Devi, 1926–2016, was an acclaimed Indian writer and social activist known for her powerful literary works that shed light on the struggles of marginalized communities, particularly tribal and indigenous peoples, as well as women, in India. Devi's writing style is marked by its stark realism and deep empathy for the marginalized. She often used her platform to advocate for social justice and to bring attention to the plight of those oppressed by caste, class, and gender hierarchies. Devi's works span various genres, including novels, short stories, and essays, and she wrote in both Bengali and English. Mahasweta Devi's legacy continues to inspire writers, activists, and readers worldwide, as her works remain relevant and impactful in addressing social injustices and advocating for the rights of the marginalized. She is remembered not only as a literary icon but also as a champion of social justice and human rights. Critical analysis of the short story Salt. The story Salt is translated in English by Sarmishta Datta Gupta and was published by Sahitya Akademi, New Delhi. Salt, a poignant short story crafted by Mahasweta Devi, intricately explores the tribulations faced by the marginalized Kol tribe in a secluded Indian village. Central to the narrative is Kanta, a coal woman whose life is intimately entwined with the demanding task of salt production. The story revolves around Kanta, a coal woman whose life serves as a potent lens through which the author examines the underlying hardships of the oppressed coal tribe, inside these rustic surroundings. The story of Kanta develops gradually and is closely related to the strenuous process of making salt. Mahasweta Devi skillfully negotiates the terrible realities of exploitation, destitution, and the never-ending struggle for survival that define this tribe's way of life. Set against the rural backdrop of India, the coal people engage in salt making, laboring in the salt pans under challenging conditions. Despite their ceaseless efforts, the community falls victim to exploitation at the hands of powerful landlords who not only control the means of production but also manipulate economic conditions to perpetuate the cycle of poverty for the coal tribe. Kanta, the central character, personifies resilience and resistance as she confronts the systemic injustices imposed by the landlords. These authoritative and exploitative figures subject the coal community to economic subjugation, denying them basic rights. Kanta's personal struggle extends to symbolize the broader battle of her community against a system designed to keep them oppressed. The narrative takes a poignant turn when Kanta's husband, Jisu, falls ill due to the harsh working conditions. This pivotal moment prompts Kanta to challenge the landlords and the oppressive system, transforming her quest for justice into a direct confrontation with those in power who seek to suppress any form of dissent. Mahasweta Devi adeptly employs Kanta's story to illuminate broader issues such as land exploitation, economic inequality, and the dehumanizing impact of systemic oppression. Kanta becomes a symbol of strength and defiance, inspiring her community to rise against their oppressors. The theme of salt serves as a powerful metaphor in the narrative. While essential for sustenance, salt becomes a source of bitterness and exploitation for the coal community. The salt pans, meant to be a source of livelihood, transform into a battleground where the coal people fight for their dignity and rights. The story underscores the paradox of a resource that is both life-sustaining and oppressive, reflecting the intricate relationship between the marginalized and the powerful. The narrative traces the long-term effect on the tribals of this vindictive strategy. The tribals resort to all kinds of strategies to cope with the problem. They go to the forest contractor, barter crops for salt, pray to Haram Dio and exchange hens for salt. The youth committee asks the medical representative about the importance of salt for the human body, but the answer is bewilderingly technical. Generally, the functions of salt in the human body are regulation of the osmosis level, maintenance of the balance of water and blood volume, maintenance of the acid-base balance, supply of the basic essential elements to bones and teeth, and maintenance of proper irritability of muscles and nerve cells. It was also essential for coagulation of blood. All this seemed Greek to him. When confronted, Uttamchand claims that the tribals are liars. Eventually, the youths forget the issue. Meanwhile, Purti discovers another source of salt, the salt lick for wild animals. He also witnesses the mischief wrought by Ekoya, the lone elephant. Ekoyas are generally unpredictable. Their behavior and attitude become irresponsible as a result of being overthrown and driven out of the herd. The loner wet the salt lick before he left. Purti realized the animal's wicked brain behind its mischievous act. The headman warns the tribals not to annoy the elephants, who are known for their vengefulness. The salt lick is shifted. But Ekoya is suspicious and changes his habits. At first, the tribals are careful not to be seen when they steal salt from the lick. Then they get bolder and are seen by Ekoya. Near Palamau Fort, Ekoya attacks the culprits and tramples them to death. The elephant is the largest terrestrial animal. But if an angry elephant decides to outwit man, it could tread more softly than an ant, taking care not to crush dry leaves under its feet, being unbelievably cautious. So when Purti turned around, it seemed the old Palamau fort was approaching them. An elephant silently used its trunk and feet, but the three men screamed madly. An official probe yields puzzling results. Nobody believes that someone could die stealing salt, unless drunk. The crime is labeled an irrational act, and taken to prove the need for human intervention in preserving wildlife. Ekoya is declared a rogue, and killed. But the headman is uneasy. 3 men and an elephant would not have died if salt was available. He does not have the words to express this insight. He can only say that it is not fair. He returns to his own habitat, knowing that urbanites will never understand how salt could cause a life and death battle. Themes: exploitation and oppression. At the narrative's core lies the pervasive theme of exploitation and oppression. The Kol tribe, engaged in salt production, faces economic exploitation at the hands of influential landlords who wield control over the means of production. The story unravels the stark realities of a system perpetuating poverty and depriving marginalized communities of basic rights. Resilience and defiance. The central character, Kanta, epitomizes the theme of resilience and defiance. Despite confronting adversity, she stands up against the oppressive system and confronts formidable landlords. Kanta's unyielding determination becomes emblematic of strength, inspiring her community to resist and advocate for justice. Injustice and inequality. The narrative lays bare the prevalent injustice and inequality faced by the Kol tribe. Economic disparities, unequal power dynamics, and the systematic denial of fundamental rights illuminate broader societal issues that the marginalized community contends with, underscoring the imperative for social reform. Symbolism of salt. Throughout the story, salt assumes a potent metaphorical role. While vital for sustenance, it symbolizes the bitterness of exploitation. The salt pans, initially conceived as a source of livelihood, morph into a battleground where the coal people fiercely fight for their dignity and rights. The dual nature of salt encapsulates the paradoxical relationship between life-sustaining resources and their exploitation. Struggle for justice. At the narrative's heart lies Kanta's quest for justice for her husband and community. The story emphasizes the significance of standing against injustice and underscores the collective struggle needed to effect positive change. Empowerment and solidarity. As Kanta challenges the oppressive system, themes of empowerment and solidarity come to the forefront. The narrative accentuates the strength derived from unity and collective action, suggesting that positive change is achievable through a shared commitment to justice. Impact of environmental exploitation. The salt pans and their exploitation indirectly highlight the environmental consequences of human activities. The narrative subtly addresses the repercussions of exploiting natural resources without sustainable practices, contributing to a broader ecological theme. Characterization. Purti, in many ways the central figure in the narrative, belongs to the tribal community, but remains a loner, all the same. In his ingenious and tenacious efforts to circumvent the scarcity of salt, he demonstrates the human will to survive. Uttamchand is projected as a villain, but to blame him solely for the problems of the tribals would be to misread the text. The rhetoric of the text, in fact, places the blame on the system that empowers Uttamchand to exploit and torment the tribals. The youth committee is well-meaning and altruistic, but its members lack commitment and true understanding of the situation at the grassroots level. The headman exemplifies practical common sense. He has an intuition of the message the story is meant to convey, but lacks the words to articulate it. This has not been fair at all. He could toss only these few words at the Babas present there and left the place with his villagers. Ekoya, though an animal, is almost a character in the story, invested with human traits. He seems more human than the inhumane Uttamchand. Narrative technique. Though the story is about simple folk, the narrative is not simple. It uses elements of satire, myth, history and science, to construct a scathing critique of social irresponsibility. The elephant Ekoya is mythified, identified with the ancient Palamau fort in the depths of the forest, suggesting a primordial landscape that casts modern human history in a reductive light. The scene was very symbolic. Palamau fort in the backdrop, river, sands, sky, night, lonely elephant. Very peaceful and eternal. The only difference was that the thoughts crossing the elephant's mind weren't particularly conducive to flying white pigeons. Uttamchand's ancestry and his exploitation of the tribals is linked to the history of the region. The land belongs to Uttamchand. His ancestors were among those Hindu traders who came into the region after the coal revolt of 1831. It was extremely easy then as it is now to evict these tribals by buying off their land. There is an elemental quality to the representation of Ekoya. The wild elephant stands for the forces of nature, simultaneously strong and under threat from human civilization, dependent on human largesse but capable of acting as an agent of violent, primitive retribution. The identification of Ekoya with Purti pictures the struggle for survival at a primordial, elemental level. The loner, in each case, is singled out for elimination, suggesting that in a normative structure, transgression comes at a price. The tribals have a close affinity to nature, but are apparently less important to human society than animals, as the rhetoric of wildlife conservation would suggest. The most salient formal characteristic of the story is its use of irony to comment on social discrimination. That salt, such a humble thing, could become a matter of survival for an entire community is incomprehensible to a civilized society. Ignorance sanctions indifference and incredulity. The Ekoyas and Purtis of this world have no scope for survival in such a system. The text is also notable for its sophisticated use of point of view. The omniscient narrator reports the thoughts and feelings of the human actors in the drama, but he also seems to understand animal psychology. Language. In the Bengali original, the language of the text is a highly sophisticated blend of different registers of Bengali, combined with tribal dialect, Hindi spoken in the idiom of this region in Bihar, and a smattering of technical English terms used to describe the scientific and medical value of salt for the human body. The story is notable for its use of figurative language. The central image of salt, a simple but vital ingredient for human survival, is identified with the lives of the tribals. The quest for forbidden salt demonstrates the basic, primitive level of their struggle to stay alive in a world where even animals are better cared for. Salt, though a humble, ordinary substance, is essential for life. To deny it to the tribals is to deny their right to live. The tone of the narrative is matter of fact, even when recounting disastrous events. The style is spare and minimalistic. Very few adjectives are used. The clipped language in which the deaths of Purti and Ekoya are reported indicates the callous attitude of the authorities towards the plight of tribals as well as animals. The Ekoya was declared a rogue without its knowledge. Since it's a loner, the elephant herd wouldn't be enraged if it was killed. A commissioned hunter came and shot it dead. Conclusion. Salt serves as a potent metaphor in the narrative, symbolizing both sustenance and bitterness. The salt pans, meant to be a source of livelihood, become a battleground for the coal community as they fight for their dignity and rights, highlighting the paradoxical relationship between essential resources and exploitation. Salt by Mahasweta Devi stands as a potent story that explores the terrible reality that the oppressed coal tribe must endure, utilizing Kanta as a symbol of resiliency in rebellion against a system of oppression. With the backdrop of salt production, the narrative deftly examines themes of oppression, exploitation, and the pursuit of justice. The story illustrates the contradictory relationship between resources necessary for life and their potential for exploitation using the metaphor of salt. Kanta's story serves as an example of the resilient spirit of the oppressed and motivates everyone to fight together for justice and empowerment. Beyond personal challenges, Mahasweta Devi's provocative story offers a deep commentary on larger social themes such as environmental degradation, economic inequity, and the transforming power of solidarity. Readers are forced to consider the intricacies of social structures and the necessity of change as the story progresses. Salt is a literary masterpiece, but it's also a call to action, imploring readers to confront and oppose oppressive regimes.